So what are dark entities? This actually came up with a discussion I got into yesterday with someone who just decided that what they call a shadow person in a friend's house was a dark entity and therefore needed to be removed without question. If we look at spirits, spirits in general, I mean, there's thousands, probably millions of different types of spirits. I mean, you get your ghost, you get your fae, your nature spirits, you get your general house ghosts, which are actually quite helpful. You do get your malevolent spirits and you get your astral entities. And astral entities that feed on fear, anxiety, depression, things like that. So if somebody in the house is going through emotional upheaval, or they do suffer from anxiety, depression, things like that, then it's possible that an astral entity could have latched onto them, onto the space, in order to feed from them. But when it comes to dark entities, what people are calling dark entities or shadow bodies or shadow people, it's not always a malevolent spirit. But because it's dark, therefore it's evil, therefore it's malevolent, therefore it's there to attack you. It's really not always the case. And so I just wanted to actually clear this up and just give a bit more background, a bit more information about what these dark entities could possibly be. And if you do have some kind of dark entity, or as I say, a shadow person, whatever you want to call it, some kind of spirit or entity which is appearing as a shadow or a dark spot or something dark, then if you can't do it yourself, then try and find somebody who can actually speak to the spirit. And do it safely, obviously, because if it does turn out to be a malevolent spirit, you don't want to get in the middle of whatever it's trying to do. But if you can speak to the spirit, find somebody that can speak to the spirit and find out why it's there, who it is, you could be surprised. Now, if we look into Kabbalah, there is something called the Selem. And the Selem is the shadow body. Now, according to Kabbalah, everybody has this shadow body. And each self, whether it's the Nefesh, the Ruach, or the Neshama, has a Selem, or a shadow body. And it can be speculated that what remains behind after we die is the Selem HaNefesh, which is the shadow body of the lower self. Now, if you have a look back in my videos, there was one about the Kabbalistic Cross. And in there, this actually comes after the Kabbalistic meditation I mentioned, where you do tuning and toning the body and you work with energy between your hands. What you can then do is go into the Kabbalistic Cross, and then you would do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, or whatever ritual you want to do. But with the Kabbalistic Cross, I mentioned the shadow body, and what you actually do is you move your shadow body before you move your physical body, so you actually move them separately, and this just gets you accustomed to your shadow body, which you can then work with in different ways. But basically everybody has this shadow body, and if the shadow body is the thing that stays behind after you die, it is quite possible that these shadow people are actually just dead people. They're ghosts. And it could be your Aunt Mary or your Uncle Bob. You don't know. They could have loved you so much they just wanted to stick around with you for a little bit longer. And then all of a sudden you bring somebody in who thinks because it's a dark entity or a shadow person, they've got to be eliminated straight away and sent to hell, or I don't know what. But, this is the attitude that people seem to have. So, when it comes to these dark entities, they are not always dark entities. They are not evil. They are not there to harm you. But at the same time, having said that, what you could experience is a lot of poltergeist activity. You could have things being thrown around. You could have doors slamming, appliances turning on. The first case I actually ever acted as a medium was one where doors were slamming, cupboard doors were opening on their own, appliances were turning on and off, and there was a shaggy carpet where you could see footprints. So all of this stuff could be happening. You could be getting nightmares. The nightmares could be due to the spirit actually giving you the nightmares, or they could just be due to the fact that you're scared. But activity could be happening that is terrifying you, that is scaring you. It doesn't mean that the spirit is trying to attack you. It just means that the spirit could be trying to actually get someone to listen. If you put yourself in the shoes of a ghost, you know, a person who's died, who's stuck in this realm, who doesn't know how to move on. They may not even know they're dead, and they don't know what the hell's going on. Then you have this ghost, this phantasm, this spirit that is stuck in a place, and it can't get anybody to hear it. It will shout, it will scream, it will throw things around just to try and get somebody's attention. If that means giving you nightmares just to try and get your attention to the fact that there is somebody there that you can't see or communicate with, then that's what they're going to do, because they're desperate, they're terrified, they are scared. You've got to understand this. But people just don't. They just think, you know, they're being attacked, and therefore, you know, it's a malevolent spirit, and therefore it needs to be banished, abolished, obliterated. And this is the word that came up in this discussion yesterday. Obliterated. So if it's Aunt Mary or Uncle Bob that you loved most dearly in life, and they've decided to just stick around for a little while, and you bring somebody in who just obliterates them out of existence, you know, where's the respect? It's just a pet peeve of mine, you know. So that's why I needed to bring it up. But just, as I say, just get somebody who can actually speak to the spirit first, before you decide what to do with them. And if it is Aunt Mary or Uncle Bob, you know, just handle it with a bit of respect, a bit gentler than you would if it was an actual malevolent spirit who was trying to attack you. This actually brings me to a healing technique that I discovered some years back. And it actually happens a lot more often than we may think. But somebody suddenly starts getting pain, especially in their head, down their spine, in their back, especially back pain, things like that, that just cannot be explained. What it sometimes could be, I mean, it could be physical, it could be a medical thing, I'm not saying it isn't. But sometimes what happens is a very dear loved one passes away. Somebody who loved you immensely in life. And they don't want to leave you. They love you that much, they really just don't want to leave you. And what happens is they attach themselves to your central nervous system. And it's not of their fault, they're not doing it intentionally, they're not trying to cause you pain. They just love you so much that they don't want to leave you, and they attach themselves to you. But because they're attached to your central nervous system, it actually starts causing pain, disease, and things like that. So, it's just a case of communicating with them, explaining to them that they're causing pain and discomfort, and, you know, they need to move on and just let go. And then you can gently actually ease them out and disconnect them. Now, the first experience I had with channeling a ghost, a spirit, and actually allowing them to move on was, as I say, at a friend's house. and he was having activity like crazy. As I just mentioned, doors opening, he'd go to sleep at night, he'd make sure his cupboard door was closed and locked, and he'd get up in the morning and it was open. Appliances turning on and off, footprints in the shaggy carpet. All of this was happening, and he was scared, he was terrified. So he wanted this damn thing gone. So I sat down and I came into contact with the spirit. I was very inexperienced at the time, but so as I say, this is where I actually discovered the whole thing of me helping people move on. But it turned out to be a little 10-year-old boy, and he was in life. He was abused and beaten by his father. He was locked in his room for days on time. He wouldn't be allowed outside, and he was just tired. He just wanted to go to sleep until he was older and he could actually leave and get away from his father. And he loved his mother a lot. Now he knew that his mother took sleeping pills, and he knew that she kept them in the bathroom ensuite, in the cabinet. And so one day he went through to the bathroom, climbed up onto the sink, into the cabinet, and took the whole bottle of pills, because to his understanding, if you take a pill, it lets you sleep for the night. So he thought if he takes the whole bottle, he'll sleep for a few years until he wakes up, and then he'll be older. And obviously he died. Sorry. And he was 10 years old. He didn't know what was going on. He didn't know that he was dead. And his mum had gone now, and he was all alone. And he just wanted somebody to hear him. So he caused all this terror because he was terrified. He was scared. Now, somebody might think that, there's all this activity, this thing's trying to attack me. Let's just go in there and obliterate the spirit. That's a 10-year-old boy. Sorry, as I say, this is a big pet peeve of mine. So I needed to talk about it. When I actually channel these spirits to actually allow them to move on, it's kind of a swapping of consciousness, I suppose you could call it. I'm not entirely sure how it happens. But in order for them to understand how to move on, I need to experience their death. So it gets a bit emotional and a bit difficult, rather difficult at times. I've had some that are just horrific. As I say, if you're experiencing this in your house, just find somebody who is a proper medium, who's not just going to go in there and go rampant and cause war. Somebody who can actually properly communicate with the spirit and find out what's actually going on, who it is, why they're there, and what help they need. Because quite more than often, it's just a spirit that needs help. And we just ignore that. We don't think about it because we've been told that ghosts and spirits and such are evil, and they shouldn't be in our space, in our house. Of course they should be. There's so many layers of dimensions in this world that we don't see. There's an entire Fey world that we don't see. It exists around us. It's with us. It's in our space at this very moment. We don't see it, but it's there. And just because we're in this space and we're occupying this space doesn't mean that we have dominance over this space. So just take these things into account. Just consider them. It's up to you what you decide and what you want to do in life. Not up to me. I just want to actually portray possibly a different perspective on things. And that's me and my rant for today. And thanks, I'll see you next week. Cheers.